So, good afternoon. I'm Dan Smith. I'm President and CEO of the Vermont Community Foundation. And it's just wonderful to be back together at this annual meeting. I was sitting down and one of my friends just shared that he thought it was the best party of the year in Vermont, which I think is high praise from a state that, particularly in this day of craft beer and craft gin, knows how to party. I always look forward to this because we look out in the crowd and we can see new friends and new faces alongside the old friends and faces of people who've been with the foundation for many years and worked with us over the years. And it's wonderful to be back in a place like the Field Days that embodies community so richly as this place does. And I can actually remember my first job after high school was a cub reporter for WDEV, and I actually covered on a live feed a tractor pull here at the Field Days in 1993, so it's nice to be back. In just a little bit, we're going to be sitting down for a family-style meal just behind this black curtain, and I think a family-style dinner is a wonderful way of celebrating the many manifestations of family that feather through the work of a community foundation in a place like Vermont. But a year ago, we came together for this same meeting up in the Northeast Kingdom, and we sat in a darkened Alexander Twilight Theater at Lyndon State College, and we listened to the voices of people who are frequently invisible across our communities, voices of people in poverty, staring head-on at the opportunity gap facing their children in the 21st century. We know that Vermont faces many challenges, but we also know that, in the words of Dave Rahr, our founding executive director who we honor today, we know that philanthropy, it builds on hope and it lights fires. So I hope you leave this meeting today, again, with that fire kindled anew. Since that meeting, we've been a foundation hard at work. Every day, we challenge ourselves to grow in impact, scale, and relevance. We ask ourselves, is what we're doing connected to the experience of people in the communities we are trying to support? We challenge ourselves to immerse ever more deeply across the state, engaging with open eyes, open ears, and open minds, listening in every conversation and every meeting for the sparks of energy that we know can rekindle that sense of common experience that is the heart of community. Every day we challenge ourselves to earn and deserve your trust. We challenge ourselves to bring creativity, ingenuity, and joy to our work. So whether it was diving head-on into addressing the opportunity gap as an organizing principle for our work, to our redesigned impact framework relying on in-depth community engagement, strategic grant-making, and Vermont mission investing, to transformations in our governance structure, we've been moving forward. And I'm going to start with the last piece first, because after all, this is a business meeting, and I'll try to keep it fresh, but for a recovering lawyer like me, governance is kind of the gravy. During the first half of this year, our board undertook an ambitious project to reorganize our governance and formalize a new committee structure in updated and revised bylaws. This new approach is intended to ensure that their work is based on the following pillars: effectiveness and impact, accountability, integrity, and strong financial management. These changes will deepen the board's engagement while putting to work their diverse regional knowledge, and I want to thank them for that effort. In the context of that work, it recurred to staff and the board that it was appropriate for us to revisit our mission, vision, and values, and so we did that as well. And so our restated mission, Better Together, inspiring giving and bringing together people and resources to make a difference in Vermont, to make a difference in Vermont. Our vision is for a Vermont that's at its best and Vermonters who are at their best. So what do we mean by best? We mean that Vermonters look out for each other, the heart of philanthropy. We mean that Vermonters have equal access to opportunity. We mean that Vermonters understand and respect each other. That Vermonters live in balance with the environment, and that Vermonters engage in civic life. We mean that Vermonters are healthy, inspired, and feel a sense of potential in their communities. So that vision is what we hold ourselves accountable to in our work. We also strive to be a nimble organization. We approach our work with curiosity, respect, and integrity. We believe in collaboration, equity, and diversity. And we reflect, in the spirit of our founder, the joy of giving. As a growing organization, you'll see some new faces around the event today and during the years to come. excited to welcome Lori Hancock to our finance and operations team, Stacy Fagan to our philanthropy team, and Celia Cadwell to our grants and community investment team. And then 2 new members of staff with our supporting organizations, Betsy Hand with the High Meadows Fund, and Joy Sellers joining us with the Curtis Fund that we'll speak a little bit more about in just a moment. And so to our 2017 metrics. In 2017, the Community Foundation facilitated grants, was responsible for grants of $15.1 million, working directly with our donors and through the allocation of our discretionary grants. That was up from roughly $13 million the prior year in 2016. A big piece of our grant making is donor-advised fund work. And so we went back and we wanted to model the activity of our donor-advised fund work, and we realized that among our donor-advised fund base, our grant making represents a 12.5% annual overall allocation from those funds, which, looking across the landscape of partnership in philanthropy and donor-advised fund work, is a pretty remarkable transactional and grant-making appetite. And I just want to say thank you to our donor-advised fund holders for their generosity in support of Vermont communities. This metric is fundamental to our work and who we are, and so we continuously work to inspire giving and see it grow. But what do those grants fund? Those grants fund 16% in the arts and humanities, 22% in education, 25% in environmental issues, 21% in human services and health, and 13% in community benefit and economic development. And grants in this category are diverse. They can go to an ambitious entrepreneurship project like the Lightning Jar in Bennington, or community projects like the skate park down in Brattleboro. They also fund smaller scale things like a concert in a renovated town hall, or a summit focused on outdoor recreation in Rochester. Many grants blend categories, and truthfully, this is some of the most vibrant work that occurs. I want to highlight the Farm to School Network and the work of the Food and Farm Initiative because of that intersectionality. It's about farm viability, it's about nutrition, and it's about teaching the next generation about their local food. The initiative strengthened the network. Our Food and Farm Initiative strengthened the network and its ability to provide at a statewide and local level to connect kids with food. It was an early venture and an early exercise for us to bring people together in a coordinated strategy, funders, organizations, and community leaders, bring them together around a specific issue over a sustained period of time, and we lean on that experience as we think about the opportunity gap in Vermont. And the legacy of that is the ongoing work of the High Meadows Fund and the Farm to Market Initiative and the ongoing work of our many partners in that Food and Farm Initiative. Enhancing the Foundation's impact framework is our Vermont-based investments. About 20 years ago, our board made a commitment that 5% of the endowed assets of the Foundation would be invested in Vermont. It makes the Foundation an early adopter of place-based mission investing as a tool for impact, and it's increasingly dynamic for us. In 2017, new investments featured VSAC's Vermont Advantage Student Loan Offering, Champlain Housing Trust St. Joe's School Project, which saved the locations of the Janet Munt Family Room, the Association of Africans Living in Vermont, and the Robin's Nest Child Care Center, among other organizations housed there. It's a true community center, and when you step back and you look at this one building in the Old North End in Burlington, and you see the tendrils of philanthropy and giving, the way they manifest in multiple organizations and the difference they're making in that community, it inspires us to think about the coordination and the impact that can be achieved across the state. I'd also like to highlight an angel stage investment we made in an employment services agency called Working Fields that is actively putting Vermonters in recovery from substance abuse to work with employers across the state. And we continue to explore the growth of our Vermont investment pool, supporting mission-driven enterprises that create good jobs in Vermont, and also real estate projects that strengthen our downtowns and communities. Pictured as the Putnam block in Bennington that we just recently announced a $500,000 commitment to as a public-private partnership. Incredible to see the community energy from philanthropy, employers, the hospital, higher education, and education coming together around that revitalization project. And I'm proud that the VCF is a part of it. So all told, we asked ourselves how much of the VCF resources are active in communities on an annual basis. Across all of our mechanisms for change, the VCF brought to bear roughly $30 million on its mission in 2017. It's a number we're quite proud of and a number we're going to keep pushing. But if there are $30 million active in the community and 5% of assets are invested in Vermont, what drives it all? We closed 2017 with $310 million under management, up from $250 million at the close of 2016. Many foundations would lead their reporting with this metric, and it's an important one, no doubt. But it's only important because of what it allows our family of fund holders, our partners, and our organization to achieve. It's critical because of what it means for the grant making and community impact it supports. So for our donors and our funders and the organizations that trust us to provide strong investment management, I think we've delivered. And we continue to provide incredible value to the nonprofit sector through the strong returns on the endowments and the funds that we manage. More specifically, across our returns, the long-term pool over the last year returned 8.2% versus 7.5%. Over a 7-year period, it's returned almost 8% versus just over 6%, nearly a 2-point differential. The socially responsive pool returned a 1-year return of 9%, just under 9%, against a benchmark of 7.9%. 7-year return of 7.7% against 7.2% on the benchmark. The assets of the VCF, those assets that I just shared and their performance of, are made up of more than 700 charitable funds, nonprofit reserves, and endowments representing every corner of the state. And I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Your partnership and your trust make the pursuit of growing philanthropy in Vermont possible. So thank you. I want to take a moment to thank also the estate attorneys, the accountants, the financial planners, and professional advisors who understand how the work of philanthropy can be a part of their clients' planning. These advisors, and there are many of you out there today, are community-minded supporters of Vermont philanthropy, and your expertise and the trust you build with the clients is a quiet catalyst for giving in Vermont at a scale that would otherwise be out of reach. So thank you. So we are here to honor our executive director, Dave Rahr, but I would also be remiss when I speak of quiet catalysts if I didn't acknowledge that 10 days ago we lost another legend. Many of you were likely at his memorial service last night, and if you pulled double duty, thank you for being here as well. Con was an early board member of the VCF, and he was recruited by Rick Davis as one of the first board members of the Permanent Fund. Con was a lion who believed deeply in the power of human relationships, mentoring and nurturing. Over the course of a career that spanned governors of both parties, he served as Commissioner of Corrections and Secretary of Human Services. And Con changed the way we care for kids in Vermont in ways that can never be undone. Dr. Dinosaur is a wonderful example. So we're honored to host a fund that bears his name, that offers recognition for community leaders that embody his spirit. As Rick put it, Con wasn't just our legend, he was everybody's. Our heart goes out to Jeanette, Con, and Con's family, and the many folks he touched along the way. And so, moving on into our programmatic work, a year ago, we made a commitment to focus on the opportunity gap, and since our meeting, we built out a strategic framework that focuses on this issue and set of issues. We continue to view the structural inequity facing the next generation of Vermont youth as the central civic, economic, and social challenge facing the state. In 2018 and going forward, we've aligned that impact framework, our discretionary grant making, mission investing, and community engagement to advance work on these 4 pillars: early care and learning, support for youth and families, college and career training, and vital communities that are seen as a place of opportunity. This focus has deepened our connection to some of our core partners, our supporting organizations and component funds. The Permanent Fund is a supporting organization of the VCF, and it's closing the opportunity gap by ensuring access to high-quality, affordable care. Momentum is building around this issue, and we've seen measurable improvement in the quality of care across the state, but there continues to be a shortage of capacity. There simply aren't enough seats. And that's why in 2018, the Permanent Fund announced its Make Way for Kids project, setting an ambitious goal of creating 500 additional new high-quality childcare slots across the state every year between now and 2025. The J. Warren and Lois McClure Foundation, promoting access to post-secondary and career education for Vermonters. In the 21st century, there's no doubt that some learning after high school is fundamental to a person's ability to be economically independent. And there's no doubt that the circumstances of your family and your community affect the likelihood that you continue your education. The McClure Foundation is closing the opportunity gap by promoting this access, and they envision a future in which no promising job in Vermont goes unfilled for a lack of qualified applicant, particularly focused on first-generation and low-income Vermonters. Pictured, you see Hannah, a first-generation Missisquoi Valley Union High School student who was able to combine program experiences funded by the McClure Foundation with Vermont's innovative flexible pathways legislation to chart a vital head start on her college experience and her transition from high school to college. Thank you for the partnership of the McClure Foundation. The High Meadows Fund is closing the opportunity gap by building resilient communities in the face of a changing climate, and we're right down the road, I should say. Streets are saved for Burlington and some downtowns here and there. From a project in Panton, where the Addison County Community Housing Trust has partnered with Green Mountain Power to install net zero modular homes that were funded in part by a mission investment in Vermont, and it's a manufacturer in White River Junctions. So it's a microgrid, it's affordable net zero housing, and it's in what was a mobile home park in Panton, just south of Vergennes. That's the kind of transformative and creative investment that the team at the High Meadows Fund brings to bear on issues combining climate, poverty, equity, and opportunity. We're grateful for the partnership of the High Meadows Fund in changing the circumstances of the next generation of Vermonters. Promoting the community health and vitality in Addison County, we have the Addison County Athletic Foundation, whose goal is to promote athletics and healthy behavior in the Addison County region by introducing kids and adults to the sport of tennis. Pictured here is Elizabeth with our program director, Aaron Morrison. Elizabeth has cycled through nearly every opportunity that ACAF offers, playing in youth match tournaments, taking lessons with tennis pros. And now she's playing high school tennis, and she says that tennis pulls her out of her shell, even though sometimes she goes just because it's fun to go whack the ball around the court. We have the Vermont Women's Fund, closing the opportunity gap by helping girls and young women rise and thrive. Last year, the Women's Fund awarded $114,000 through its competitive grant round to 13 different organizations. They celebrated women's entrepreneurship with screenings of the documentary Dream Girl. Meanwhile, Change the Story, an initiative supported by the Women's Fund, alongside the Vermont Commission on Women and Vermont Works for Women, spent 2017 sharing research on women's leadership and economic security in Vermont. It's a wonderful example of the fact that if we don't know, we can't act. And Change the Story has shed an important light on a host of issues. The Women's March and the Me Too movement only underscored the importance of the Women's Fund. The fund embraces philanthropy as a tool for jumpstarting systematic change that will allow every girl and woman in the state to thrive. The Samara Fund. At times, we see value in reflecting on the past to build the future. Pictured are participants in the Andrews Inn Oral History Project, a project of Green Mountain Crossroads that the Samara Fund supported in 2017 that captures the early history that led to Samara's creation. Connection is vital to creating community. The Samara Fund grew out of a moment of crisis in the gay community, and the work is not yet done. Samara stands poised to foster a new generation, grow the fund, and continue a legacy of activism that is crucial to the fabric of Vermont's LGBTQ community. The Northeast Kingdom Fund. Northeast Kingdom Fund represents philanthropy by the kingdom for the kingdom and is stewarded by a steering committee of community leaders. Pictured are members of the Northeast Kingdom All-Stars. You can find an all-star team for just about every sport imaginable, but kids who loved making music in the Northeast Kingdom didn't have a community to gather around. Now Rockstar kids actually have a place where they found community in the band, and the Northeast Kingdom has another team to turn to if they want to have good live music in the kingdom. And we heard them play last fall, maybe it was last winter, at the Northeast Kingdom event, and it was a wonderful sight and wonderful music. And so from here, I actually have the incredible privilege to announce another supporting organization at the Vermont Community Foundation, joining the McClure Foundation, the High Meadows Fund, ACAF, and the Permanent Fund. It's a product of the remarkable vision of a bequest that was made almost 110 years ago. The Curtis Fund has been providing scholarship aid to Vermont men and women for more than 100 years. Emma Eliza Curtis had no children of her own, but when she passed, she shared that her deeply held belief that education could change the course of a person's life. Over 100 years, the fund has grown and continuing to provide scholarships to low-income and at-risk and first-generation Vermont youth. The fund aims to level the playing field so that every Vermonter has a chance to obtain the education he or she needs, regardless of family background, income level, or birthplace. We view the Curtis Fund as a wonderful teammate in our focus and our principle to work to address the opportunity gap among next-generation Vermonters. Pictured is Tan Nguyen. She expected to be heavily in debt when she graduated from college. She didn't know how she'd foot the bill. Receiving the Curtis Fund grant was a huge help, she shared. I was able to cover some tuition and supplies, and my parents didn't have to worry about picking up extra shifts. And she's currently working as an admissions counselor at UVM. So I couldn't be more excited to announce this addition to our family of supporting organizations. It's been a pleasure to work with the Curtis Fund board and Joyce Sellers, their staff member,